Claire's like, Kyle saw a shoe booty. I'm like, he needs to get his eyes checked. What'd you say?
Just talk about your day.
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, welcome. This is a channel where we discuss lots of motorsports, namely NASCAR, ARCA, IndyCar, and Formula One. Those are the series that we cover right now. Eventually, we do plan to broaden that scope, but for now, those are the series that we cover. So on today's Cup Series Rewind Show, we're looking back at today's 37th annual Pocono 400 from the Pocono Raceway, the Tricky Triangle in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. 160 laps totaling 400 miles on this 2.5 mile track. And we're going to start off with the highlights from today. Not a lot happening in the first two stages, no cautions in either one. First stage would go to Martin Truex Jr. He would get the green and white checkered flag at lap number 50. And then at lap 100, stage number 2, Kevin Harvick in the Busch Ford would take the second stage. Now, as we get into the third stage, this is when a little bit started to happen. And not a lot, but we did have a few cautions in the third stage. First one at lap 126 for the 99 car of Derek Cope spinning in turn number 3. Lap 140, debris in turn 1 off the 19 of Daniel Suarez. Then the two big incidents on the day. First one on lap 148. Denny Hamlin would spin off of turn number 1 after contact from Alex Bowman. And then our final caution of the day came at lap 152, right at the end of the race, off the restart off that previous caution. As you see here, Eric Jones spins down the front stretch. The 22 of Joey Logano and the 31 of Ryan Newman also involved in this incident, but Eric Jones obviously getting the worst of this one. That was really the last incident that would happen in this one. Off the restart, Martin Truex Jr. pulls away, and this was really his race to lose in that final few laps. Martin Truex Jr. would pick up his second win of the season, that being his 17th career victory at one of his 4 home tracks. Being from Mayetta, New Jersey, there's a lot of tracks within fairly close proximity there that he can consider his home track. Led a total of 31 laps on the day. That was the second highest total. Kevin Harvick did lead the most laps on the day with 89. Kyle Larson came home in the second position, and the rest of your top 5, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Brad Keselowski. Really, those top 4 right there really were your strongest cars throughout the day. It was really going to... Kyle Busch actually said it the best in post-race. Really, you put up those 4 cars in any order you want, and that very likely could have been the finishing results. All 4 of them were really that even throughout the day, and I think that speaks volumes as we go down through the season here, because I really think those 4 cars, the 78, the 42, the 18, and the 4, those are probably going to be your championship 4 at Homestead. Now, things can change drastically, I know. I think we said the same thing last year. Those 4 probably were likely going to be the final 4 at Homestead. And then Larson has his troubles in the round of 8, and that didn't quite happen. But again, I think these, this year, are the 4 strongest cars in the field. Obviously, the 18 and the 4, most weeks are stronger than the 78 and the 42. But overall, I think those are your 4 strongest cars in the field. Rest of your top 10, pole sitter Ryan Blaney comes home in the 6th position. Eric Almirola with another strong top 10 in 7th. Jimmy Johnson, building on the momentum of his top 5 finish last week in Charlotte, comes home in 8th. Joey Logano, 9th. And Chase Elliott puts a second Hendrick car in the top 10 in 10th. Now, as we look down here, 11th through 20th, a stronger run than we've become accustomed to in the last couple weeks for Matt Kenseth here in 13th. Teammate Ricky Stenhouse in 14th. Not a banner day for Roush Fenway Racing, but obviously the best finish we've seen from Matt Kenseth in that 6 car. I think they are building momentum here, although I'm not really sure how Matt got that high in the finishing order, as he really wasn't running the best all day, and neither was the 17 of Stenhouse. Most of the day, those two were somewhere down around 20th, maybe the high teens, so for them to be in the top 15 for both of them was actually a really good finish for those two, as they really didn't have that strong of cars on the day. I know 13th and 14th really isn't that strong either, but I think that's better than maybe what you might have thought they were going to get watching them throughout the day. As we look further down through here, third Hendrick car and William Byron there in 18th. Kurt Busch and Clint Boyer were both fairly strong throughout the day. Kurt Busch having problems with his drink system leaking in the helmet, so they had to come down pit road at one point and change out helmets. Never really could recover from that. Clint Boyer had a very strong day, in the top 5 most of the day. Had an issue late there on one of those final restarts, dropped all the way back to the mid-20s. I'm not really sure what that was. I never really heard an explanation on that, but 20th was the best he could do by the end of the day. 21st through 30th, Daniel Suarez in 24th. Cole Custer in one of his limited Cup Series starts for the season comes home in the 26th position. Alex Bowman was up there with the rest of his Hendrick teammates most of the day. They're hovering around 10th in that area. They're in that maybe 7th to 15th range is where most of those Hendrick cars were throughout the day. Had the issue with Denny Hamlin late and never really could recover from that. He ends up 27th last car on the lead lap. Eric Jones with his issues on that final on the restart, next to last restart, what would set up the final caution. He comes home one lap down in 29th. Denny Hamlin, we saw his issues, 35th on the day. Good number of laps off the pace. And then Bubba Wallace had some engine troubles there with about 52 laps to go, and that would be the end of his day. He comes home shotgun on the field in 38th. So that's your results from the Pocono 400. Now let's head over to the Media Center. We'll see what your top 3 finishers, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and Martin Truex, had to say after this one.
We had a good car all day. Just came down to that really losing control of the race on the last pit stop. Really, not pitting or pitting didn't really seem to matter. We just we lost control to the 18 and wound up losing a couple more spots on the restart, starting on the inside, and that was the end of the day. So car was fast, and everybody did a great job. It just didn't work out.
Might as well go before that. Shoot, we're here. Just real unfortunate there that once we all thought we had that caution that brought us all down pit road for what we thought was the final stop of the day. We got tires. We beat everybody off pit road and was in control of the restart and then in control of the race when we were leading there. And all of a sudden, about 10, 11 laps into that run, there was a caution in turn 1 for what looked to me to be a shoe booty. Somebody took their booty off, I guess, and chucked it out their window. So that was kind of weird that we saw a caution for that, but safety comes first. So that just kind of derailed our strategy, if you will, and we lost this race last year on not pitting in that situation and getting beat by tires. And so we pitted this year for tires and got beat by those that didn't pit. So just really crazy situation there with how all that kind of transpired and went down. But we fought hard for the finish and tried to get the most out of what we could there and just couldn't pass.
And we're also joined by Kyle Larson, who finished second today. He's the driver of the number 42 DC Solar Chevrolet. Kyle, why don't you just take us through that run there at the end?
No, I hit it. It hit my windshield.
Okay,
It was a big piece
we'll
of
see.
metal. Claire's like, Kyle saw a shoe booty. I'm like, he needs to get his eyes checked. What'd you say?
Just talk about your day.
You can
Talk
just
about my day.
Take us through the end there.
We weren't quite as fast as what I thought we'd be after practice. Ran probably 6th or 7th all day long, and finished second. Was happy about that because I felt like, obviously we were at a little bit of a disadvantage on tires there, but the track position overcame that. But I felt like if I didn't have a good restart on any one of those, I would have fell back, outside the top 5 from those guys on fresher tires. So happy we finished second, but needed a lot more to kind of compete with the the 3 guys that ran up front all day.
Well, final restart, really the end of the race was just kind of played in our hands. We decided to stay out there when some guys pitted. I think 4 of us stayed out or whatever, but really, we were good on scuffs yesterday in practice, and that kind of led to that decision. And Cole said stay out, and I was like, I think this is a good idea. So, luckily, it worked out for us. We ran some really fast lap times at the end, but the restarts are always, always a question mark. You're always a little bit nervous, just hoping you do everything right and hoping 2 guys don't get that bumper to bumper kind of tandem thing going and get a run on you. So. We were able to hold them off, and I felt like if we could get to turn 1 with the lead, I felt pretty confident we could hold them off, and that was the case. So, awesome day by everybody on the team, and we had to battle a little bit back from a bad pit stop, but in general, just had a really good car. Everybody did a great job all weekend long and made the right decisions. So, just happy today that things kind of went our way a little bit for once. It's been tough lately, but. It was an awesome day, awesome place to win, and really proud of everybody.
So now we'll take a quick look at the playoff grid before wrapping up here tonight. And as we can see here, the only change within the top 10 is Martin Truex. Obviously, he bumps up now to 3rd place after he now has 2 wins. So he's solidified his place in 3rd at the moment as he's the only guy with 2 wins. But then we look down here closer to the bubble. This is where things are really changing right now, and it doesn't surprise me. This is where most of the changes are, as these guys down here close to the bubble are really close on points right now. Ryan Blaney jumped over Eric Almirola to move up to 11th. Almirola's down to 12th. But then you look at these guys 14th to 17th, all of them moving in one way or another this week. Chase Elliott is up 2 positions into the 14th spot. Eric Jones down 1 to 15th. Ricky Stenhouse is up 1 to 16th, and Alex Bowman dropped 2. He is now out of the playoff grid in 17th. So a lot of moving here in this 14th to 17th bracket. Right now, with a couple more strong finishes, I think Chase Elliott will be pretty solid here. Jimmy Johnson is getting to the point where he's fairly solid. One bad finish, though, for these guys, and that all goes away. But with the strong finishes they've been putting up, they're starting to put a slight buffer between themselves and that cutoff line. Really, right now, I'm looking at Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse, and Alex Bowman. They're really the guys right now on the cutoff. That being said, all that has to happen is for Paul Menard, Daniel Suarez, Jamie McMurray, or even somebody down here below 20th to win a race. And then all of a sudden, this cutoff line changes drastically. Because if that happens, if somebody below Alex Bowman or even below Ricky Stenhouse wins a race, all of a sudden, you're now bumping Stenhouse down to 17th, 3 points below Eric Jones. But then you've got a 12-point gap, Jones to Elliott, and another 26-point gap up to Jimmy Johnson, who would be down to 14th in this scenario. So none of these guys right now are safe, I don't think, without a win. And obviously, they're definitely not safe with as close as they are on points. A win is the only thing right now, as close as these guys are to being in or out, a win is the only thing that's going to solidify their place in the playoffs at the moment. A lot of these guys, I think, can win. A lot of these guys have proven they can win. I mean, Ricky Stenhouse has won races. Jamie McMurray down here in 20th has won races. Jimmy Johnson, well, obviously, we know Jimmy Johnson can win races. Eric Almirola's put up some strong finishes this year. We know he can win races. Ryan Blaney's won races. And even you look at Blaney and Almirola. Blaney now plus 103 above the cut line seems to be solid, but at the same time, a couple of bad races for Ryan Blaney, and all of a sudden he's down here in the position of Chase Elliott, where he's got a little bit of padding, but not a lot, and it's not going to take a lot for him to fall out. So this is the time of the year when we really start to look at this cutoff line, and because things change a lot down here. I imagine we're going to have one or two more surprise winners here before we hit the playoffs, and that's really going to change things up down here around the cutoff line. I'm excited to see how this changes going forward. So I think that's all I got for you tonight here on the Cup Series Rewind Show. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. And ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing from Racing News Now. Hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.